So we'll start with today being the Hilulat of the Ari. Introduce you to a sefer. Maybe some of you haven't seen it, but this is a sefer called Shivchei Ha'ari. Sefer Shivchei Ha'ari this one specifically was put together by Rav Yaakov Hillel, Rosh Yeshivat Ahavat Shalom in Yerushalayim, and Rav Yaakov Moshe Hillel. And this really, he takes the description that Reb Chaim Vital gives to his rabbi, the Arizal. Reb Chaim Vital was a Talmid Mubhak of the Ari, and he takes the description and he opens it up. He gives you an elaborate story about why he says such praises about the Arizal. So the first one that I wanted to read actually to you, and then we'll go into the Gemara after, a story about his birth. And so that you know that even from his birth, how holy he was, and we're lucky to have a record of his Torah. So in Perek Aleph, we're going to read inside. He says, Ele Toledot Yitzhak. This is the birth of Yitzhak, which comes from a pasuk in the Torah, Parashat Toldot. Why Ele Toledot Yitzhak? Because his name was Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, right? So, Ish haya be'eretz tzvi Shlomo Shmo. There was a person in Israel, his name was Shlomo, who was the Ari's father. He was afraid of Hashem. One day, he was begging in the shul, he was crying in the shul. And Eliyahu Hanavi appeared to him through his prayers. And Eliyahu Hanavi says to the father of the Ari, Rabbi Shlomo, he says, Da lecha sheshalecheni HaKadosh Baruch Hu levasereka. Hashem sent me to you to give you a message, to give you news. Ki hine ishtecha hara v'yoladet ben. You should know that your wife is pregnant and she's going to give birth. V'karat shemo Yitzhak, and she's going to name him Yitzhak, or you're going to name him Yitzhak, or he will be named Yitzhak. V'hu yachel leoshia et nefashot Yisrael miyad haklipot. And his job will be to save the Jewish people from the klipot, from the husks, from the tum'ah. This is already Eliyahu Hanavi telling this to the father of the Arizal. What's the purpose of the Arizal's books? What's the purpose of the Arizal's life story? Here it is. To remove the Jewish people from impurities. And you should know, many souls that have reincarnated in this world for many years, he will fix them, because they're big neshamas. Through his hand, the Min HaShamayim, they're going to send him the Chokhmah to be able to reveal the knowledge of Kabbalah. It's also known as Torat HaChen, Chokhmat HaNistar, Rashi Tevot Chen. V'chol min Chokhmah sheba'olam lo yechsar mimenu. You should know, no knowledge in this world, meaning he's going to contain every single knowledge in this world in his head. He's going to be a master of all of them. Ushmo yetzeh bechol haaretz, his name will spread through all lands. Lachen hishamer v'izaher shelo timol oto. Therefore I command you to be very careful not to give him a brit milah. Ad she'avo liyot sandakus hayeled hanolad, until I come and be the sandak for this child. Eliyahu Hanavi is saying this to the father. Vayhi kechaloto ledaber ito hadevarim ha'ele. And after he finished speaking with him, Ne'elam me'enav, Eliyahu Hanavi disappeared. Maybe he came to him in a vision, or maybe he was Nigulai left in the body, I don't know. V'itama ishahu me'od, and he was in a very confused state. Mina mareh azod, from the awesomeness of this vision. V'yishaer hayom ha'u kulo bevet ha'kneset bocheh u'mitpalel el Hashem elokav. And that whole day he remained in shul praying to Hashem. V'kach amar betfilato, and he said in his tefillah the following words: Anna Hashem, please Hashem, kayem et hadavar hazeh asher besarti bo. Please make whatever news Eliyahu Hanavi came and told me, make it come true. Ve'al ya'akev elai shum avon bidvar hazeh, and don't stop this thing from happening for any one of my sins. None of my averot that I did should stop this from coming true. Hagam ki katon anochi ve'en bi shum zechut. I know I am small and I have no merit. Do it for your sake and not for me. Meaning, it's a good thing, Hashem, that Kabbalah is going to be revealed in the world. He's going to be mitaken the show, and he's going to take all the Jewish people out of the klipot. What happened? Balayla, that night, halach leveto. He went back home. V'sod ze lo yatsa mipiv. He never revealed this to anybody. Uvchol yom asher haya ro'eh beten mele'ah haya boche merov hasimcha. Every time he saw his wife's stomach getting bigger and bigger during the pregnancy, inside himself he would cry from the amount of happiness, because nobody has any idea what kind of child is about to be born in this world. Only he knows. Ve'imleu yamea leledet. And finally she reached 9 months of pregnancy. Vatelet ben, and she gave birth. Ve'imale abayit ora. The whole house was full of spiritual light. Ubayom hashmini holichu oto lebeit hakneset limol keminhag. And on the 8th day, he brought him to shul to get a brit milah. Ve'aviv haya mistakel bechol svivot beit hakneset. The father is now looking around the whole shul, lirot im ba Eliyahu zachur latov, to see if Eliyahu Navi is coming. Velo ra'ahu, and he doesn't see him. Vahi b'tza'ar gadol, ki kol anshe ha'ka'al hayu atzim bo. All the people in the congregation, they're complaining to him, and he's suffering from this. Lemor gesh hala ve'ehezak bincha limolta. What are you doing? Come here, sit down, do brit milah to your son. Don't worry, you're a big rabbi, you be the sandak, just sit down. And he was making excuses, saying that my relatives didn't all come yet. How much could he push that excuse? Half hour. And he started crying. He says, if Eliyahu Navi is not coming, it must be that this kid that he promised me that I'm going to have, or that he told me I'm going to have, I guess I'm not going to have it. Probably my Avera stopped this from happening. And my sins caused this goodness, this child that was supposed to be born through my loins is now no longer going to come to this world. So he didn't blame Hashem like people do. He didn't blame anybody. He said, maybe my sins stopped this. And while he is crying, Eliyahu comes and sees him. Don't cry, servant of Hashem. Come to the Mizbeach, which is the sandak chair. It's compared to a Mizbeach. Do your olah that's fully going to be consumed by Hashem, meaning Hashem wants your service. Sit on the chair. And sit and hold your baby in front of everybody. And I will sit on you. I will hold with my hands. And the reason why I came late was to test you. If you're going to guard my mitzvah, if you're going to actually do what I asked you to do or not. And he sat on the chair. He sat, and Eliyahu Navi was the sandak. Nobody else knew this. Only he knew that Eliyahu Navi possessed his body. And he did breathe to the yeled, gave him over to the mother. And before they even reached the house, nitrapeat hamilah. The milah was already healed. As if he was already had a brit milah a few years. And many people were wondered by this. You hear? Now this is the Arizal, right? Now everybody thinks the Arizal was born and he never learned Gemara, he never learned Mishnah, he was only a Kabbalah, right? Listen to this. Look what Rabbi Chaim Vital writes. והיה יודע במשנה ובתלמוד ובהגדות ובמדרשים על כל דבר ותבר כמה פנים על דרך הפרדס. He could explain to you Mishnayot, Gemara, stories, Midrashim, Halacha, not just one way, many different ways of Pardes. Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. Different drachim. והדברים מוכיחים והיה מפרש הלכה בכל יום בשישה דרכים. Every day of the week, he would explain halacha in 6 different ways. Al derech hapshat, according to the simple explanation, keneged sheshet yamei ha'maaseh, to correspond to the 6 days of creation. Ve'achar kach, and after explaining it 6 different ways, haya mefaresh halacha kula al derech sod keneged yom ha'shabbat. Why? Because keneged yom ha'shabbat has no klipot. So that way he would understand it, and no malachei habala, none of the klipot would stop from the clean explanation coming out. And there's more in here. So that is a little bit on the Arizal. Now we could start the Gemara. Any questions? If I could answer on the Arizal, I don't even know. Okay, good. We're on Masechet Avoda Zara Daf Yud Amud Bet. Did everybody here listen to the recording so we could continue from there, or you missed the second one?
The second one basically reviewed the first, and then just a little addition.
It was more, and I did a Tosafot in the second one. Yeah, we'll do a quick review. Not a problem. I think this Gemara is actually pretty easy. We could go through it fast. So we're located on Daf Yud Amud Bet. We'll start with, you see the Hey Lamed on the last line, about 10 lines from the top, I think. Hey Lamed, last line, last word on the line. See it?
Yep.
Everybody got it? Eliyahu, you got it? Okay. On the last line of the Yud Amud Bet, 10 lines from the top. From the top. It's small. Okay.
Everybody else got it?
All right. Havale hahi nikrita. There was a certain, nikrita means a crack in a rock or a cave. The hava ayila mebete lebet Rabbi, that would go from the house of Antoninus to the house of Rabbi. Kol yoma havamayete tre avde, and every day, every time he would go to the house of Rabbi through this tunnel, he would bring two servants with him. Chad katalea bavade Rabbi, one of them he would kill at the entrance to Rabbi's house. Vechad katalea bavade bete, and one he would kill at the entrance to his house. So that way, as we know, he's trying to preserve the secrecy of the relationship between Rabbi and Antoninus. Does anybody remember why? Why is he trying to preserve the secrecy? Yeah, correct. And also that he didn't want to, He was serving him, but why didn't he want the Romans to know that they were talking? Because he was secretly putting in policies for his friend, and he didn't want those policies to become jeopardized. Okay, now Nikrita, if you look at Rashi, Nikrita, he says is a me'ara, is a cave. So Leshon Nikrat Hatzur, like it says in Parashat Kitisa, it's Nikrat Hatzur. Nikrat Hatzur means a hole in the rock, hole in the wall. So he would kill two people, one at the entrance of the cave, one at the entrance of Rabbi's house. Now I want to ask you a question. Antoninus is who? He's a what? He's a Jew, he's a Greek, what is he? He's a Roman. So Rome to Israel is not a cave away.
Because they're inverted, switched.
No, but I'm saying, where did this cave start? Where did this cave end geographically? So this was actually, you know who speaks about this? The HaKadosh speaks about it. The HaKadosh says in Shir HaShirim, his Pirush on Shir HaShirim, he explains that there was a place in Tiberia, near Tiberia, near the Galil. It was called Romi. And he says, in that place in Romi, he says, from Romi to wherever Rebbe was, he built a cave. And he says, I know where this cave is. The HaKadosh writes this. This was years ago, right?
That's the Romi pretending.
That's the Romi, exactly. So Rome came, took over a town, said that that's my town. And from there to there was where these conversations would happen. There's no way to build a cave through the sea. Okay, and no, Europe, Rome is in Italy. Italy is in Europe. Israel is a completely different continent. You're not going to build a cave between continents. Okay. Amarle beidana de Atena. So he says to him, Antoninus says to him, in the times when I come to you, la nishkach gevar kamach. I don't want anyone to be here in the house with you. I'm killing these guards to keep it secret. I want you to keep it secret. Yom achad. So one day, there's a story that happened. Ashkichel Rabbi Hanina bar Hama. Antoninus he found Hanina bar Hama sitting in the house, the Havayatev, and he was sitting there learning Torah with Rabbi. Amar, so Antoninus says to Rabbi, La amina lach be'idana de Atena. Didn't I tell you that any time that I come, la nishkach gevar kamach, I shall not find any man here with you? Amar le, so Rabbi Yehuda Nasi replies back to Antoninus, Le den bar inish. This is not a human being. Meaning he's implying that Rabbi Chanina bar Chama is who? Is a malach, is an angel. Amar le, so he says to him, Amar le lehahu avda legane abava dekaem belete. Yeah? He's an angel, prove it. There's a guy sleeping outside. Go to him and bring him inside. Now, Rabbi Chanina bar Chama does not know that Antoninus stabbed this guy to death 2 minutes before he walked into the house. So he's about to find out that there's a dead body out there. Right? Azal Rabbi Hanina bar Hama ashkiche dehava katil. Rabbi Hanina bar Hama went and he found that he was dead. Amar hechi avid. So he says, what do I do now? If I go and I tell Antoninus that this guy is dead, you're not allowed to bring bad news to the king. If you bring bad news to the king, they kill you. Even if you're right. You're going to see a story today also, another story about this. Even if you're right, you bring bad news, you cause distress to the king, they chop your head off.
So how did he get news? Messengers?
Who? They would chop them. Yeah.
You're saying don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, it's very bad to bring bad news. Only today we bring bad news and you get praised for it. So Eshbekei ve'ezil. So he says, if I leave him alone and I run away, ka mizalzilan b'malchuta. Is this how you be mizalzel? You cheapen royalty, meaning it's an avera also. It's a chilul Hashem to cheapen royalty, even if it's a royalty of goyim. Malchut is in the hands of Hashem. Hashem chooses who He wants to put into royalty. I cannot just cheapen the kingdom of Rome. So what did he do? He's stuck over here between a rock and a hard place. So he started to pray for him. He revived him from the dead. And he brought him inside the house. You see this? Amar, so Antoninus says, Yadana, I was just testing you, I know this. Zuti de'itbechu mehayemetim. The smallest ones amongst you can revive the dead. Mihu, however, nevertheless, me'idana de'atena, the next time that I come, la nishkach inish kamach. You shall never have another man here with you again. That is the instruction Antoninus gave him. Any questions before we continue to the next story? Okay, well, Tosafot has a question. We're going to go to Tosafot. Tosafot, Amar le imken lema le lehaik dekai abava, right? On the right side. That Tosafot right on the right of the story. This is not in the recording. We're learning this for the first time. This Tosafot. This is a very interesting Tosafot. So first of all, there are different girsa. What does the word girsa mean? Versions. Some people in the story, in this story, the Gemara has the word imken.
If so?
If so. So what does that mean? So Antoninus says to Rabbi, if so, tell this guy to go out there and wake him up and bring him in, right? So he says, Rabbi Elchanan Piresh, Rabbi Elchanan explains, the lo garsinan imken. Why? We're not explaining this with a story of saying the word imken, if so. If he's sleeping outside, and if he's a malach, go out and revive him. It's not what we're saying here. Because if this is the case, then he would have to explain, Rabbi Chanina would have to understand that this guy is dead. He didn't tell him that he's dead. What's the big deal about waking someone up from the sleep? So he's not telling him go wake him up. He's telling him go outside and bring this guy in. I know he's dead. Let me see what you can do if you're really a malach. So Amarinan b'midrash. So now Tosafot brings a midrash. Very rare, by the way. Tosafot doesn't like to say stories. So he says chalav metameh v'chalav metaher. You guys have this? Chalav. Okay. What does that mean? There is milk that can make someone impure, and there's milk that can make someone pure. Keshenolad Rabbi, when Rabbi was born, that's the name of the story, by the way. Milk that makes someone impure, milk that makes someone pure. So Keshenolad Rabbi gazru shelo limol. When Rabbi was born, the Roman officials made a Zara, a decree, that no one should give Brit Milah to their children. Ve'avi ve'imo milu. Obviously, I think Rabbi Gamliel. Huh? Yeah. So, Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel or ben Rabbi Gamliel? I think it's Rabban Gamliel, no? So whoever his father was, I think it was Rabban Gamliel. So he think he's going to listen to the Romans? Maluhu, they gave him Brit Milah. Shalach Kesar, so the Caesar went, ve'evio Rebbe ve'imo, and he summoned Rebbe's mother and the child lefanav. What happened? Ve'echlifato imo be'Antoninus, and the mother of Antoninus switched Rebbe with her son. Antoninus was a goy, he didn't have Brit Milah, and Rebbe was a Jew, he had Brit Milah. So the baby with the Brit Milah went to the goyish mother for a few minutes, and Antoninus, the one that did not have Brit Milah, went to the Jewish mother for a few minutes. V'henikato ad she'evi'u lifnei Kesar, and the Jewish mother gave her kosher milk to this baby Antoninus while she was watching him, and she switched the baby. Umtsauhu arel, and the king opened the child's clothing, and he found that the child had no Brit Milah, arel, he had a foreskin. Ufiterum l'shalom, and he said, "You're free to go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Yeah. Ve'amar oto egmon, ani ra'iti shemalu et zeh. So they said to that general that said, "I saw that they gave Brit Milah to the Jewish child, to Rabbi Yehuda. Ela HaKadosh Baruch Hu oseh lahem nisim bechol et. Hashem is doing miracles for them every second. Uvitelu ha'gezerah, and they took away this whole gezerah. They allowed the Jews to do Brit Milah again. See, so people don't think sometimes that, you know what, I have to do Mesirut Nefesh, and now all the Jews had Revacha after this. Go ahead and do. Sometimes it takes one person to stand up for the right thing and risk his life so that everybody else can enjoy from it. Nachshon. That's Chalav Yisrael, correct. Not Dunkin' Donuts, right? Ve'amarina nami Yerushalmi, and they say also in the Yerushalmi, Shelesof, that in the end, Lamad Antoninus Torah, Antoninus later on learned Torah from this one time of drinking milk, V'nitgayer, and he converted, Umal Atzmo, and he gave Brit to himself. You hear this? Okay. So let's go back to the Gemara now. So we are now located Kol Yoma. Everybody have it? The first words on the lie is Inish Kamach. Inish Kamach, you see that? Okay, Kol Yoma Hava Meshamesh LaRabbi. Every day Antoninus would serve Rabbi. Ma'achile, mashkele, he would feed him, he would give him to drink. Ki Hava Ba'e Rabbi Lemesak LePuriya. Anybody know what the word Puriya means? A bed. Okay, so once you know Puriya means bed, the rest becomes easy. Ki hava ba'ei Rebbe, when Rebbe would need lemesak, to climb up, lepuriya, to the bed, hava gahen kame puriya, he would bend over in front of his bed. Antoninus would bend down so that Rebbe could step on him and climb onto his bed. King for the rabbi. You believe this? Right? Amar le sak ilavai, climb out on me, lepuriyach, onto your bed. Amar la'av orach ara lezalzule b'malchuta. So Rabbi would reply to him, it's not derech eretz to be mezalzel, to cheapen the kingdom, the king like this. So kulehai means to this extent. It's not proper for me to disrespect you to this extent. Okay, you want to serve me, you want to bring me drink, whatever it is, fine. But to this extent, to bend down beneath my bed and for me to step on you, too much. So one day, Antoninus asks a question to Rabbi. Mi yasimeni matzah tahtecha laolam haba. Rabbi, will I be put next to you in olam haba? Amar le, so he said, atena le'alma de'ateh. Will I have olam haba? Amar le, Rabbi replied to him, yes, you will have olam haba. Amar le, he says, what do you mean? How could you say this? Ve'achetiv, there's a pasuk in Ovadia Perek Aleph. Lo yiheh sarid levet Esav. There will never be what do you say, sarid? A remnant? There will be no survivor for the house of Esav. Be'oseh ma'aseh Esav. So Rabbi replied, no, this is only somebody that acts the way Esav acted. So there will be people left from Esav's house, but anybody who acts like Esav, they will be the ones that are annihilated. Tanya nami hachi. And then he taught also, there's another Baraita that teaches a similar teaching. Lo yiyeh sarid levet Esav yachol lakol. Are you telling me the whole Beit Esav is going to be wiped out? Talmud lomar. So therefore the pasuk says lebet Esav, the house of Esav, not the whole Bnei Esav. It says Beit Esav, be'oseh ma'aseh Esav, which means the people that did the actions that Esav did, killed, raped, right? It says the woman that screamed out in the field, right? They make a gzera shava, sadeh and sadeh, al shelot tza'aka basadeh, right? That pasuk that she did not scream out in the ear in the field when she was being taken advantage of. How does that have to do with Esav? Because it says vayavo Esav min hasadeh v'hu ayev. So the Gemara makes a gzera shava, sadeh, that day Esav did all three averot. Gilui arot shfichut damim avoda Zara. He killed Nimrod, he raped, and he bowed down to a stone. So Amar Leve Aketiv. So Antoninus says back to him, as you see, the Rashi before says that Antoninus was a Talmid Chacham, he learned Torah. He says, Shama Edom lemalachea vechol nesi'ea. What does the word Shama mean? Destruction. Right? There will be destruction to Edom, Malchea, its kings, vechol nesi'ea, and all its leaders. Amar le melachea velo kol melachea. So Rabbi replies to him, yeah, the kings, and I know you're a king and you're worried. Velo kol melachea. It doesn't say all the kings. It could have said all the kings, just like it said the next word, kol nesieha, all of its leaders. So all of its leaders, yes, they're going to die as Reshaim. But kings, no. There are some kings that are going to stay alive. Velo kol sarea, and not all of its leaders. So what do you mean? So tell me, who's the leader that's going to survive and who's the king that's going to survive? So we said the king is who? Antoninus. Who's the leader? So let's continue. Tanya nami hachi, melachea velo kol melachea, kol nesiea velo kol sarea. What does that mean? So its kings and not all of its kings, all its leaders and not all its generals. Melachea velo kol melachea, perat la Antoninus ben Asverus. What does it mean? Kings and not all their kings. That's talking about Antoninus, who is the Chavrusa of Rabbi. Kol nesieha, all of its leaders, velo kol sarea, but not all of its generals or officers, perat lektia bar shalom, ministers, excluding ketia bar shalom. This is excluding ketia bar shalom. Who is ketia bar shalom? Ketia bar shalom mai. Who is that? Dehahu kesara dehava sanei leYudae. There was one Caesar that hated the Jews. Go figure. I don't know. They happen to hate us. Amar lehu. So he said one day to lechashive de malchuta, to the important officials of the kingdom, to the politicians, listen closely. Mi she'ala lo nima beraglo. Somebody that has an infection on his leg, a cut in his leg. Yikte'ena v'yichyeh o yanichea v'yitzta'er. What should he do? Should he cut it off and live, or should he leave it alone and suffer?
Leave it alone, suffer.
What should you do?
Got it.
Right? So that's what he asked. Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Sheyesh lo nima beraglo basar met. Dead meat, tsa'aro, and it's causing him pain. So gangrene, right? Ve'yichyeh, meaning should he cut off that ever and live, ve'yavri, and become healthier? Right? That's what he's asking him. Or leave it alone and have pain. Amru lo. So the officials told him, Yikte'enna v'yichyeh, let him cut it off and live. So meaning cut off. So he was hinting to them, if you have the Jewish people, and they're like a rotten piece of meat on the body of the Roman kingdom, what should we do? Let the Jewish people survive and all the Romans have to suffer with them? Or should we just kill them all and that's it? We don't have them as an issue anymore. You know, Hitler copied these exact words, right? Amar lehu Ketia bar Shalom. So Ketia bar Shalom said, Chada de la yachalt lehu lekulehu. Says, no, I have 2 points to make for you. Chada, the first point, de lo yachalt lehu lekulehu. First of all, my king, it is impossible for you to kill all the Jews. It's just not a possible fact. Dichtiv, because it says a pasuk in where? Zechariah Perek Bet, Ki ke'arba ruchot hashamayim perasti etchem. For I have spread you around the world like the four winds. Not into the four winds, like the four winds. You could catch a wind. The wind goes somewhere, you don't know where it goes. There's no way that you could kill every single Jews. My kamar, ilama de badrehon de bedal ruchot, hay ke'arba ruchot. So if it would say, like inside the four winds, it doesn't say that. It says ke'arba ruchot, le'arba ruchot mebayale. It should have said to the four corners of the world. Why does it say like the four corners of the world? Because you can't destroy them. And just like the world cannot exist without the winds, so too the world cannot exist without Israel. The whole world exists because of the Jewish people. And the second point, not just that, they will call you the severed kingdom. Meaning if you actually go and annihilate all your Jews that were so loyal to you, and you had such a good relationship with them, and you're going to go and betray them, they're going to call you Malchuta Ketiyah. How do they, severed kingdom? How do they translate it? Yeah, severed kingdom. Severed kingdom, okay. Yeah. So Amar Le, so he said to him as follows. Remember I said before, if you bring bad news to the king, well, the Roman Caesar had a different style. You prove me wrong, you die. Isn't that convenient? So he says, Amar Le, Meiman Shapir ka amart. You said a beautiful pshat, and I love your knowledge. Thank you. Mihu, kol de zache. Anybody that proves me wrong, shedule lekamuna halila. We will put him in the ovens. Basically, the room of ashes. The room of ash. You can't, huh?
Gas chamber.
Gas chamber. You cannot prove the king wrong. Kad hava naktin le ve'azlin. And that's what they said. We were going to kill you, and they were taking him. Amra le hahi matronita. So now there was a certain queen, right? Matronita, Rashi says, Romit, a female official in Rome. So she says, Vavai laile ilfa de azla belo michsa. Woe to the person going on the boat without having taxes to pay. So there's different explanations to this. You know, the Romans believe kind of like the Greeks, that when you die, there's a river and there's a boat, and you have to pay the guy on the boat to take you across to Geinam, right? So she says, this was a famous Roman saying, the woe to the person that has to go on a boat but doesn't have any taxes to pay. So she meant it in a way of, like, you're not going to Olam Haba anyway, so you shouldn't have corrected the king. Like, you're going to die now, and they're going to give you a horrible burial. They're not going to put those coins on your eyes. You're not going to get the death of a Roman now. So he says, really, you want me to pay tax? Right? No problem. Nafal al reshe